Well, welcome back. If you take a drive around our county, you'll see business of almost every kind, such as service, manufacturing, retail, but you won't have to drive very far off the main road to see another piece of our economics, and that is agriculture. Tonight, we are joined by Leslie Hart, who works with the county to assure that agriculture continues to be part of our economic engine. Leslie, welcome.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Sure. And for the first question, Danielle, it's all yours.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to meet you. I'll kick things off by asking, in your opinion, what really does agriculture mean to Washington County in terms of employment and economic benefits?
Well, let me just start with the economic benefits of agriculture in Washington County. First of all, we have about 900 operating farms in Washington County, and we have about 4,000 owners or that actually own agricultural property within the county. We have 150,000 residents in our county. But agriculture generates $107 million in sales annually. That number has increased. We have to capture the information from the census, and that data has increased about 25% from the previous 2007 data or census information, and I'm giving you the 2012 data. I anticipate when we roll out in 2017, we'll probably be up about another 25%. So we'll have sales of about $130 million in agriculture, which is our largest revenue driver in our community.
Wow.
In addition to that, you have to think about of all those 4,000 farms, typically there's, some people prefer to work off the farm or to be tied to their operation. Agriculture probably is, as far as unemployment data, you figure there's probably about 10 to 16,000 people that are working directly in the agricultural community right now. Without agriculture, we don't eat. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to recognize and remember about agriculture is that is part of what we need to live and sustain ourselves. And sometimes you get behind a big piece of farm equipment, and it can be a very cumbersome and very slow process, but that piece of equipment is what's putting food on our tables. It might be in the form of cereal or milk or hamburger or chicken or eggs or any number of other things, but we have to have farms.
Yeah. Very good. Henry.
Question for you. What segment have you seen the most growth recently in for agricultural community?
Well, I'll talk about the most, aggressive or probably the most rising segment, but I do have to mention dairy. Washington County has the largest number of dairy operations in the state of Maryland, and right now they are struggling tremendously. Milk prices that they're paid from the farm are very, very low, and of course costs are still rising. So it's very hard to find the balance. So that is what we're really focused on at the moment within Washington County, is to make sure that our dairy farmers can be sustainable and that they can stay in operation and we can keep our milk production where it needs to be. But on the flip side of that, probably the fastest growing segment are the wineries.
Okay.
What's called value-added specialty type farms. But I'm seeing it with cheese operations. We have 5 cheese operations. We just added another winery and vineyard in Washington County. But I'm also having some specialty things like hydroponics, aquaponics, where they're growing fresh tilapia. And I'm seeing it in more flowers. I'm seeing a large resurgence in herbs. More and more people are interested in where their food comes from. So they're looking for more varieties of products. So not just a purple eggplant, but you can get a white one, and you can get a small one or a large one. Same things with tomatoes. There are hundreds of varieties of tomatoes.
Okay, and to follow up, you said milk obviously is a driver for us, and the milk prices. How does the county look to try to stabilize that? Because that price is kind of dictated by various entities outside of our community.
It is. And majority, actually all of our dairy operations in Washington County are part of co-ops, meaning that they pull together other farms and then they can sell their milk to a much larger market segment. One of the things that we have done is we partner heavily with University of Maryland Extension, and some of the suggestions are possibly changing the rations that the cows are eating, looking for economical ways to maybe do more production of food for the cows on the farms. And then the other one that some farmers have started doing is milking instead of 2 times a day, 3 times a day, which does increase, and it helps them pay their expenses at the end of the month with that additional amount of milk flow.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Janice, can you maybe take us in a little different direction?
So in the midst of the housing boom, we saw many farms lost for development. So does this concern you, and what are your suggestions on how we could deal with it?
It does concern me greatly. I'm born and raised in Washington County, and farming has been certainly part of my life since I was a small child. But in order for us to be successful, we need to make sure that we are able to continue to grow food. But we're also growing as a population, so we need to be able to house our people. So just finding that right balance. We have some really wonderful agricultural land preservation programs in Washington County. Majority of all of them have a waiting list. But what that does is it's an agreement between the county and or state or the federal government and the farmer that says they will not sell their farmland for X number of years or forever. They will keep the farm in farming. In other words, they won't sell it off for maybe a retail establishment or anything like that. And that finding that balance is a challenge because some farms are right next to very valuable commercial properties, and that's a tough one because the farmer has the choice to walk away with several $1,000,000 and never look back at farming, or retain the farm, which has been in the generation for many years. And the preservation programs are one of the ways that we can do that.
So you said there's a waiting list for the preservation program. Is there anything that we can do or we can lobby our state legislation to do as far as moving that forward?
Well, one of the biggest things that everybody could do right away is start eating local. Get your eggs, your meat, poultry, chicken, your proteins, your dairy, yogurts, cheeses, pork, everything local. Because for every $1 that you spend with a local farmer, 60 cents of that stays in this community. Versus a small business, which is a smaller amount. And that's because the farmer is able to control all their production and input costs.
So where do you recommend going to find locally grown products?
Well, I personally like farmers markets because that's a lot of farmers coming together into one location, so you have a larger variety. But at the same time, I encourage everyone to make friends with their local farmers. You know, when you see a sign at the end of the lane that says brown eggs, stop and buy some brown eggs.
Can you maybe get a pitch out for how many farmers markets you have now very quickly?
Sure. We have one at Knob Hall Winery on Sunday afternoons. We have the City of Hagerstown Farmers Market, which is the oldest farmers market in the state of Maryland, on Saturday mornings. We have the Elks Farmers Market, which is on Wednesdays from 3 to 6. We have the Meredith Farmers Market, which people don't really know about because it's only advertised to the Meredith and Robinwood employees. That's on Tuesday mornings from 10 to 2. And I'm missing one. Hancock. We have a farmers market in Hancock.
Very good. Next up on the flip side, our panel discusses the most recent terrorist attacks in the United States. We're back in 3 minutes.